Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something called high-performance edge computing, HPEC for short.
That's right.
Now, if you're new to this, imagine taking all that, data center power, but instead of it being far away, it's much closer to where you actually need it, right at the edge.
That's a really good way to put it. It's about decentralizing, pushing compute power out from the center to, well, devices, sensors, users,
Right.
wherever the data is being generated or used.
Which means things could get faster, more responsive.
Exactly. Less lag, quicker processing.
Okay, so we're not just talking hypotheticals. We've got some interesting source material today focusing on a group called HPEC DAO and how they're approaching this, along with related things like HyperCycle, Bitmap, and even a tool, Cardano.ai.
Right. Quite a few interconnected pieces.
So our mission today is really to understand what HPEC looks like through their specific lens. Is it a unique approach? And importantly, where does it fit in, especially if you're just sort of dipping your toes into this whole space?
Precisely. We're aiming to break down their model and see what it offers, particularly for someone maybe encountering these ideas for the first time.
Great. Let's start with HPEC DAO itself. The sources say their main goal is decentralized high-performance edge computing. What does that actually mean in practice? How are they set up?
Well, a core piece seems to be their use of something called HyperCycle technology. They're basically using it to build out a distributed network. Think of it as a web of individual computers, or nodes as they call them.
Nodes, right, the computing unit.
Exactly. These nodes are the individual powerhouses contributing to the network's overall capability.
And where do these nodes come from? I saw mentions of node factories. Is that like a physical factory?
Not quite in the traditional sense. It seems more like a decentralized hub, a collaborative setup.
Okay.
People can come together and maybe pool resources using HYPC tokens, which sounds like their native cryptocurrency, and node licenses to actually create and operate these computing centers.
Ah, so it's community-driven.
Very much so, based on the sources. It's presented as a way for participants to collectively build this infrastructure and then share in the value or rewards generated.
Interesting. Sort of like a co-op for edge computing. Now, the sources also bring up tokenization and NFTs quite a bit. How do they fit into this HPEC DAO picture?
Yeah, this is where it gets quite innovative, I think. They talk about taking assets, which they call hypershares, presumably representing a slice of the network's capacity or value, and they tokenize these into unique NFTs.
Non-fungible tokens.
Right, specifically on the Cardano blockchain. So instead of one company owning everything, you can have fractional ownership represented by these NFTs.
So holding one of these NFTs means you own a small piece of this distributed computing network.
That seems to be the idea. Partial ownership of the nodes, the hardware, maybe even some of the tokens within the ecosystem.
And it's not just about ownership, is it? The sources mention passive income and governance, too.
Exactly. It's presented as having two main functions beyond just ownership. First, the potential for holders to earn rewards, perhaps a share of the network's revenue. Second, these NFTs seem to grant voting rights.
Ah, okay. So owning an NFT gives you a say. Tell me more about that decentralized governance side.
Yeah, the community aspect seems really key here. NFT holders get voting power on, important decisions for the DAO.
DAO meaning Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Correct. And central to this governance model are individuals called active ambassadors.
Active ambassadors, what do they do?
They seem to be trusted community members who actually manage and oversee the nodes, likely spread out globally.
So the boots on the ground, keeping the hardware running.
Kind of, yeah. And they're also key players in what's called a multi-signature vault system.
Multi-signature, like needing multiple keys to approve something.
Precisely. For major actions, like maybe funding a new node factory or distributing resources, it requires approval digital signatures from several of these ambassadors, not just one person.
Okay, that sounds like a solid security measure. Built-in checks and balances.
It certainly reduces the risk of centralized control or, bad actors. It fosters trust within the decentralized setup.
Right. Now, we keep mentioning HyperCycle. Let's circle back to that. What exactly is this technology? Why is it so crucial?
Think of HyperCycle as the engine or the operating system that makes this whole decentralized HPEC network function efficiently and allows it to scale up.
So it's the software layer connecting all those distributed nodes.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's the foundational tech that enables these nodes to work together as a coherent, powerful system.
Got it. And how does the governance part, the multi-sig vault, interact with this HyperCycle network?
There's another piece called the HyperPGD, a decentralized application. This acts as the secure bridge.
Okay.
So when the masters approve something in the multi-sig vault, let's say setting up a new node factory, this DApp securely communicates that to the HyperCycle network, bringing the factory online.
And it provides transparency too, I think I read.
Yes, that's highlighted. The DApp apparently allows anyone to monitor things like node performance, how rewards are being distributed, and track reinvestments back into the network. It seems designed for openness.
Everything linked together then. Security, governance, operation, transparency. Okay, let's shift perspective. Think about someone listening to this maybe curious but new to crypto or decentralized tech. What's in it for them? What are the benefits of getting involved with HPEC DAO?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. We've touched on the partial ownership via NFTs. That's a big one.
Right.
And connected to that is the potential reward system. They mention that a significant chunk, 80% of the profits from the computing power associated with these NFTs goes back to the holders.
80%, that's quite high.
It is. It's presented as a way to potentially earn passive income just by holding the NFT representing a share of the network.
Okay, so that's one way in. What else? Are there other ways to participate?
Definitely. Besides the NFT holder rewards, the DAO itself apparently reinvests 10% of profits back into growing the network. And the people actually running the nodes, the operators, get another 10% for their work.
Makes sense. Rewarding the active participants.
And for those who want to be more involved than just holding an NFT, there's the ambassador program we mentioned earlier. That seems like a path for deeper contribution and maybe different rewards.
So a range of options from passive holding to active management. What about that tool, Cardivia.ai? How does that benefit a newcomer?
Ah, yes, Cardivia.ai. This sounds particularly interesting for accessibility. Holders of something called an HPEC DAO Pass NFT get lifetime premium access.
And what is Cardivia.ai?
The sources describe it as a kind of no-code or low-code platform. Think like a ChatGPT, but specifically aimed at building things on blockchains, Cardano, Bitcoin, and others.
Whoa, okay. Like a user-friendly interface for blockchain development.
Exactly. It's designed to lower the barrier to entry, letting people build, for instance, AI modules, they call them AIMs, or other applications, without needing deep coding expertise.
That could be huge for adoption.
It really could. It gives you access to Cardano-specific knowledge, SDKs, APIs, basically the tools and info you need to start creating in this Web3 space, maybe even connect your creations to the HyperCycle nodes eventually.
So it empowers users to become builders, not just participants. Very cool. I also saw a mention of Bitcoin developers. How do they fit in?
Yeah, that was an interesting point. It suggests that Bitcoin developers could use HPEC's node factories to beta test their AI models.
Why would they do that?
Potentially lower costs compared to, say, traditional cloud providers like AWS or Google Cloud, and maybe even earn revenue by deploying their AI on the HyperCycle network.
Opening up possibilities beyond just the Cardano ecosystem.
Seems like it. They also mentioned the DAO using generated revenue to buy more bitmaps, which are described as digital assets on Bitcoin. So yeah, definitely looks like an effort to bridge different blockchain communities.
Okay, let's zoom out again. Big picture. Where does this HPEC model, as HPEC DAO presents it, sit in the wider world of technology?
Well, connecting the dots, it really seems positioned as a potential bridge. A way to move from the current internet, Web 2, towards a more decentralized Web 3 future by providing the underlying infrastructure. Decentralized AI and advanced blockchain applications need a lot of computing power, right? HPEC aims to provide that power in a distributed, accessible way. It's trying to accelerate that shift.
Kind of like building the decentralized highways for data and AI.
That's a good analogy. And crucially, it offers a path for people who aren't tech experts, who don't have the time or resources or even the physical space to run powerful servers themselves.
Right. They can still participate through the DAO through owning NFTs.
Exactly. It fits into that vision of a more open, maybe more secure, AI-powered internet that isn't solely controlled by a few large corporations.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So putting it all together, the DAO governance, the NFTs, the focus on high-performance edge computing powered by HyperCycle, is this approach unique? Are others doing this exact combination?
You know, while there are definitely other projects working on decentralized compute or DAOs or using NFTs, sure.
The specific blend here seems quite distinct. The combination of the community-driven multi-sig security, the explicit focus on high-performance edge computing, the specific HyperCycle tech, and the tokenized ownership model.
Plus the tools like Cardivia.ai.
Right. Plus the tools that actively lower the barrier for entry and provide tangible utility beyond just speculation. That whole package, as described in the sources, does appear to carve out a unique niche. It's not just infrastructure. It's trying to build an accessible ecosystem around it.
Okay, so the synergy of all those parts is what makes it stand out.
Yeah.
Let's try and summarize the key takeaways then, especially for someone new listening in.
Okay, so HPEC, in the context of HPEC DAO, is about spreading out serious computing power using HyperCycle technology. It's decentralized.
Yeah.
Ownership and control are shared through NFTs and a DAO structure, meaning NFT holders get a say and potentially earn rewards.
Got it. NFTs for ownership and governance. Security is handled collaboratively through that multi-signature system with active ambassadors. And importantly for newcomers, there are multiple ways to get involved passively holding NFTs, actively participating as an ambassador, or even using tools like Cardano to start building, even without being a coding whiz.
Right. It offers different levels of engagement and seems focused on making this advanced tech more accessible.
Exactly. It positions itself as a foundational piece for building out a more decentralized web, powered by AI and blockchain, aiming for transparency and community control.
Well, this has been really illuminating, a fascinating look at one approach to HPEC. It definitely sounds ambitious, trying to democratize access to this kind of power.
It does.
So a final thought for you, our listener. As the need for computing power just keeps exploding and interest in decentralized tech grows, how might models like this HPEC DAO actually change the game in the future? How could it reshape access to advanced computing for everyday individuals and developers? Something to think about. If you want to dig deeper yourself, check out the links in our notes. We've got their Discord, Cardivia.ai, the HyperCycle Explorer. You can continue your own deep dive there. Thanks for joining us.